based on attire. Um, so I chose this topic because ever since I was little, I have loved fashion. And coming into my senior year, I had no idea what I wanted to do my project on. And so, of course, I went to Miss Carlton and was like, please help me. And she just looked at me and she said, well, Tori, you love fashion. And I said, yeah, I can make that a senior project. And she looked at me and she was like, of course you can. And so after we had that conversation, I made it happen. And I was able to form everything together to get my senior project about something that I'm passionate about and have always been passionate about. This is me and my brother when I was little. But yeah, so my project, I just chose something that really spoke to me and that I've always been passionate about. My research question was how dress affects perspective in both social and professional setting. And directly, I researched the personal and social situations within the educational setting, the business setting, and peer relationships in which dress can affect them and how they play different roles in every setting. The research did conclude, however, that no matter where you are, whether you're with friends, whether you're at school, or you're interviewing for a new job, that dress plays a key role in literally every situation. And so the studies have even shown that in the business world, it's the most important because when, okay, so when, so when you first meet somebody based on first appearances, there are 10 key factors that are decided immediately based on first impressions. And those factors can include things from socioeconomic status to even personality traits, simply based on what you're wearing. And it's a subconscious reaction, so it's not like anybody can control it. Also, a study in England researched how women view other women in professional settings, and it found that women who were dressed more conservatively were rated as being higher within the company than women who were dressed more casually, and those different categories were differed only by inches in hem length or blouse cut. So the difference wasn't that big, but even subtle changes can be the difference between being a secretary and a CEO. For my internship, I interned at the UVA psychology department as well, hoping to pull in more of the psychology aspect with the fashion aspect of my senior internship. So the first internship that I had was with one of the professors, Timothy Wilson, and he invited me to come to research lunches with the psychology department where graduate students presented their findings, and within all of those, I found that psychology is applicable to almost every situation and can be applied to things from technology to social settings and acceptance rates. But then my more influential mentor was Fred Smith, pictured here, who invited me to come sit in on his introductory psychology classes, where he talked mainly about how the perspectives that we conclude from appearances. In one of the classes, he talked about how even color and size of two-dimensional shapes can lead you to think things about their personalities, which was really interesting and helped me pull in a lot of ideas that I later used in my paper. Within this, though, I realized a few things about myself. One is that I could never go to a large university, because sitting in the class of 400 college students as a high school senior, I freaked out. And when I walked into the class, there were barely any seats. Some kids didn't even have seats at the end, and so when I did, I just sat there and kind of freaked out for a little bit. But then once Mr. Smith started talking, he tried to engage all of his students, but obviously when you have 400 students in a classroom, not all of them are getting the same experience, and not all of them are choosing to get the same experience. Taking this information, I went and will be teaching a class with Miss Carlton's freshman governor school students on my findings in how dress affects perspective, specifically related to their future governor school presentations, which will be happening in April. So I'll give them a few guidelines that they should be following so that they're dressed the right way for their presentations, because I know as a freshman I freaked out about what do I wear to these. So hopefully I can go with that and make them a little less stressed. Also, as a part of my community service, I was able to work with Evelyn James at the Paul Stephan Foundation, and they work with unwed mothers who maybe have kids or may be pregnant and are unable to provide for their future kids or their current kids. and need help either getting to college or getting a job or funding themselves. So they just need support. And so what Evelyn and Randy James, her husband, do, they help these women and get them to where they need to go. So a big part of the foundation is interview readiness, because all of these women are getting interviews maybe for the first time in their lives. And so to be ready for these interviews, I wanted them to feel confident about what they're wearing too, so that they know no matter what experience they have, they are ready on the outside for their interviews. So they'll look clean and they'll be ready for what they need to be, no matter how nervous they may be. So this is the room that I was given to create this interview-ready wardrobe. The Paul Center home is a little bit of a mess right now because they're in the middle of renovating it. So she just kind of said, here, you can use this room. And I was able to turn it into this. And pictured here there are pants and skirts, shirts, dresses, even accessories that I was given, which are a compilation of donations that were simply set aside because the Jameses are very busy people because they don't have a lot of people working with the foundation. And so a lot of the donations they get just set aside until they can deal with them later. And so I was able to work with all of those donations and get them in an accessible place and decide which ones are appropriate for interviews and which ones may not. Looking back on my project, personally, I found that communication is definitely key in a lot of things. That I got rejected from a few places before I found the Jameses and before they took me in, but once I was able to communicate with them, everything worked out, and that was amazing. Also, with the psychology department, I emailed, I think, like 12 different professors, and then finally got a response maybe 3 weeks into trying to contact all of them from Fred Smith and from Timothy Wilson, and one of them referred me to the other. I just can't remember because it was all a whirlwind of stress. But then they replied, so that was good. In my advice to future governor school students, I just have to say that I chose what I was passionate about, and after I did that, everything else fell into place. So I know that any future students, if you choose something that you really care about and you're really passionate about, everything else is going to work out for you, and it'll all fall into place. And there are people there to help you get where you want to go. So don't be scared to do whatever you want, even though it may not be everything. Also with the foundation, I did leave pamphlets behind as well to show my findings to people who, so that when I go to college and I'm not in Orange, I can give them leave these pamphlets so that the women in the closet still know a few simple guidelines and maybe some sample outfits to look at to help. But yeah, future governor school students, I just say choose something you're passionate about, so that whatever you do, you can stay engaged in it. Also, this study helped me to figure out that no matter where I go to college, I've been accepted to Auburn, Christopher Newport, and William and Mary, but I'm still waiting on a few more letters, and I don't know where I'm yet, so I haven't made that final decision. But when I do, I know that I'll probably be either majoring, major, minor, or considering a master's in something to do with the fashion program, because I realized that it's the one thing that I'm truly passionate about, and that if I'm passionate, I can make it happen. Are there any questions?
Now, I know this is going to not be an easy answer, but do you think we should have uniforms in high school? Do you think that that could help the idea of the perception of the way that kids are perceived? Because even when you see certain kids walk into the classroom dressed certain ways, you have a certain thought about it. Like, do you think that could be something that could help?
The only problem with uniforms is that it limits self-expression, and so that's a big problem in high schools, because a lot of kids I know feel that, as you're a teenager, you think that your parents are, deciding things for you, and it's a typical topic everywhere. And so the problem with uniforms is that if we give those, it just gives more strict rules and more things to be broken. Also, uniforms, because they'll look different on everybody, because not everything looks the same on everybody, there's the problem of it may look good on one girl, but then it doesn't look good on the other girl, and so you don't know who's going to be made fun of and where that problem comes from. So choosing the clothing that's right for our own bodies is also a good idea, because you'll be comfortable and you also look.
How do we get that, like, as a teenage girl? How do you get that across to some of your friends? Because it's really hard to look at some of these girls where you can just say, buy one pant size bigger. I promise you'll look much better. You know, like how do we get that into the heads of teenage girls? Like how do we change their perception?
A lot of the problem is just that it's people wearing things that they think are comfortable or maybe in style. And so a good thing is to reassure self-confidence, and so that's going to help because a lot of girls who are dressed inappropriately are looking for reassurance in other areas. And so a lot of it, if you're confident about yourself, you're most likely choosing the clothes that are going to portray your confidence. And so it's just reassuring that personal aspect of you're amazing, dress like it.
First of all, I would say it was refreshing. I actually covered the same exact topic for my senior thesis when I was at UVA, Curry School of Education, so kudos to that. Second thing, I focused obviously from a male perspective going into the classroom and how students perceive teacher behavior and teacher dress, and so I found it really refreshing that you went from a perspective from a young female going into the business world, so that's awesome. And two, my question comes in the form of, since yours was so female-focused, do you think that females, in your studies, what you found, do you think they're judged more harshly and criticized more closely because you enter somewhat of a male-dominated world when you're stepping into this business reality, at least in this time period in history?
So I definitely think you have a point with my research paper, however, though, it wasn't gender-biased.
Okay.
So I just researched on a basic level and researched more so how everybody sees everybody else. And so a lot of the studies are gender specific though, just because they look vary so much.
Sure.
And so the problem is that all of the findings that I found, like the things that I said about, you know, the 10 key factors that we decide, that wasn't a gender biased thing. It's something that everybody does and can't really be helped at all.
Okay.
And also, to say in my paper, I did do the educational setting as well. I found that really interesting. But trying to research all of our interactions and found that there's conclusions everywhere that it definitely matters.
Thank you.